So today, everybody, we're going to be talking about another reading strategy, and this is going to be one of the last ones we talk about, and one of the most difficult ones, but don't be intimidated because we're going to break it down and it'll be really easy. So, like always, make sure you have your notes ready. Okay, this reading strategy is called synthesizing. So, what does it mean to synthesize? Simple definition. It means that you're putting things together in your head to create something new. So you're putting things together or pieces together to create a new idea. When you synthesize, your brain integrates or incorporates the ideas in the text and what you're reading with your personal thoughts and questions that you already have from background knowledge. So the goal is to develop your own insights or your own ideas. The whole purpose for reading a text is to make your own meaning out of it. So when you're synthesizing, you're developing an opinion, a judgment, an argument, a product, etc. So hopefully that bolded definition right there is the part that I want you to focus on, putting things together in your head to create something new. And then we'll practice and I'll give you some examples. Okay, so you need to know, when do you synthesize? Well, you synthesize probably more than you realize, but you have to summarize and combine information by determining what is the most important. So when you synthesize, you summarize and combine information. You need to determine any conclusions that you can make. In other words, what are any main points in the text? And if you think back to summarizing, those should be pretty easy to find the main points. You want to find any important themes or connections between the text and anything else that you have read or know. When you synthesize, you want to think about, can you relate to or connect this information to anything else that you know or that you have heard? And when you synthesize, you want to evaluate what you are reading, seeing, and hearing. So that's why synthesizing is difficult, because you are doing so many different things in the process of synthesizing information to create something new. So synthesizing, see, it's even difficult to say, is the most challenging reading strategy. Why? Because your brain has to work overtime to summarize, infer, make connections, predict, visualize, which we know as imaging, ask questions, evaluate. You have to do all those things while also finding personal meaning to the text. So in Spanish, me duerme la cabeza, which means my head hurts. If your brain hurts, you're probably synthesizing correctly. A lot of times if you're working on like a math problem that's really difficult, or you're trying to write an essay and the thoughts just aren't coming together, you kind of have that moment where you're like, my brain hurts. So just if you get to that point, don't get scared, because synthesizing is difficult, but it's not impossible. Just stop and ask yourself, what does what I am reading mean to me? Okay, so we are going to watch this short video explanation of synthesizing, because I think that getting it from your teachers and then another source as well will make it more clear.
Have you ever given any thought to the way you process information? The truth is, you do it all the time. Not just online, but at home, at work, and in the conversations you have every day. You read a negative review for the latest Steven Spielberg movie. You hear from a friend that it's actually pretty good. You put both of those sources together and use them to form an opinion based on what you already know. You know you like Steven Spielberg, but maybe you're not really interested in the movie. You decide to wait till it comes out on DVD. Believe it or not, there's a word for that. It's called synthesis, but for our purposes, it may be easier to think of it as putting things together in your head. Synthesis is something that happens naturally in everyday life. You hear or read about something new, in this case differing opinions about the latest Spielberg movie, then you file that information away in your own personal database. Also in that database are little bits of memory and other things that you've learned or experienced all throughout your life. These things combine to form an understanding of the subject. This is also how you form an opinion on the subject. The same thing happens when you consume information online, for example, when you read an article or watch a video. But what if you had to form more than an opinion? What if you had to produce something tangible, like a blog post, a presentation, or a research paper for school? The process is remarkably similar. First, it wouldn't be right to just throw your research together, save it in a Word document, and call it a day. Your work should be like your opinions. Your work should be unique. Instead, think about your sources and start putting them together in your head. In this example, articles that talk about green living. Look for connections between the materials that might help you understand the subject a little better. Look for connections in your personal database. For example, any experience you have with recycling or saving energy at home. This will help you draw your own conclusions so you can eventually put your thoughts into your own words. That's synthesis. But really, it's as simple as putting all the information together and combining it in order to create something new. Remember that, and your next writing project is sure to be a success.
Okay, so obviously we're talking about synthesizing in terms of reading strategy, but you also use it when you write. So it's an all-around good strategy for English. Okay, so here's another example of how you might use synthesis. Let's say that you are trying to determine what college you want to go to. So pretend you are, second semester junior. Let's say you have to choose a college. You have researched 4 different universities. So how are you going to pick? You could synthesize all of your research into a chart that will help you decide. That would be the responsible way of going about it, so you make an educated decision. So you have to think about, before making your chart, what criteria will you consider? Now, the possibilities are endless here, but for the purpose of our example, we are considering location, the programs of study offered, which basically means what majors do they have, what could you major in, the cost of attending the university, and the living accommodations. Okay, so this is an example of a chart that you could make. So you can see for College 1, the location is far away, programs of study are excellent, cost $18,000 per year, and living accommodations are good. College 2 is out of state, which means you're going to have to travel further. Programs of study are good, cost $7,000 per year. Living accommodations are poor. College 3, it's near home. Programs of study, excellent. It costs $20,000 per year, and the living accommodations are excellent. College 4 is all the way across the country. Programs of study are good, costs $10,000 per year, and living accommodations are fair. And then College 5, you're near friends and home, programs of study are good, it costs $10,000 per year, and the living accommodations are excellent. So I could tell you my answer to this, but my answer is not necessarily the right answer. There's not a right answer. The whole point of this is you're creating your own new idea, which is where you want to go to school based on the information. By the way, just a side note, this must be like 50,000 years old because most universities cost a lot more than this now. But anyway, what I want you to do is think about, out of those factors there, which ones are most important to you, and I want you to explain how you came to a decision about which of those colleges you would attend, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. This is going to show us how you synthesize complex information to come up with an original idea. So you need to have your decision-making process written down in the form of a few sentences or a paragraph in your notes when you come to class tomorrow. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email us, but for the most part, anything that we didn't cover in this video, we will talk about in class tomorrow, and we will see you soon.